Welcome, everyone, to Battery Dance TV, our Sunday morning special Dance Diplomacy with Jonathan. We decided that we would reach out to our colleagues around the country and find out how they're doing, how their companies are doing, and how they're handling the pandemic. What happens to a performing arts organization at a time when theaters are closed, when social distancing is restricted, and here we are with dance, the most intimate of art forms. So I couldn't be more pleased to have Melissa Young, the artistic director of Dallas Black Dance Theater. She's starting her third season. What a time to start a season, Melissa. Tell us what it's been like for you over the last 7-8 months.
Well, I've been with Dallas Black Dance Theater for 27 years. I joined as a dancer and progressed up the ranks. After the first, transition into my artistic directorship, it was certainly new territory. It's like everyone's like, oh, you've got this. You've been there for a long time. And I said, well, it's different when you're looking at the organization through a different lens. And so, I was feeling my way, making like really great organic choices, and I have good intuition, was going with it. And then here we are. This pandemic happens, and I was a little frozen in my tracks, to be candid. I wasn't sure, what did this mean? Did this mean that we had to close our doors? All of the assumptions of the negative, kind of slipped into my mind really quickly. But I will say the saving grace for my mental sanity is our executive director, Zanetta Drew. She's been with the organization for a little over 30 years, and this has not been her first crisis of sorts. So she says, don't panic. She's like, we can do this. Let's make a plan. So literally the first performance that we had to cancel, the very next day, it was a Sunday, she and I went up to our building. We met for about 4 hours, and we said, hey, let's make 3 different plans. Let's do a 90-day, plan. Let's do a 6-month plan, and then a year plan. And I don't even know how it happened still to this day, but we figured, when the uncertainty is going to continue to flow, you have to have some type of plan and framework to move forward, or else you will be paralyzed in your tracks. So with all of that to say, since I've been with the organization, we've always had good planning and preparation. And I feel like those steps that have happened for decades has now certainly helped us in these times, because blessedly, Jonathan, I don't even really know how this has happened. We have not closed our doors. Our entire administrative staff, all of the dancers in our main company and our second company, DBDT Encore, they've been paid, health benefits and all. So it's like the strangest blessing, and then some people are like, well, what do you do with that? You can't perform anywhere. Well, you have to. That's what we do as creatives. You figure out how to make a situation work. And as you very well know, with our art form of dance, we've always been thrown the curveball. You're stuck in a circumstance, they promise the stage is going to be this big, and you get there and you're like, oh, this is it. So what are you going to do? You still have to perform, right? So
improvisation.
That's what this really is. So we're the kings and queens of figuring out how to make it work. And there's no one in the entire globe who can say that art has not brought them through this process gracefully. Whether you don't even have to like dance, whether you picked up a book, a magazine, whether you finished every series in your queue on your favorite movie channel, this art is what has healed our souls and really kept us from dangling by a thread. So we're just doing that at Dallas Black Dance, just making good choices. And this is really the time, I feel, to figure out how to reimagine the organization, and just to kind of like step out on the edge, and you figure out what works. And if you see it's kind of lukewarm, well, this is the time to pull back a little bit and shift gears.
Melissa, I have chills. I mean, I'm exaggerating. I'm sure your executive director cherishes the relationship with you, because you're an artistic director who's thinking strategically. You're not the diva who says, no, it matter what it costs and how much we lose, we'll go ahead. You are a strategic thinker. And, I don't think our audience maybe understands the many transitions that are involved in coming from a dancer 27 years ago, transitioning all the way through the company to artistic director, because it is not necessarily the right or organic or natural path for just any dancer. So listening to you, I'm absolutely strengthened to know that in Dallas, there is an artistic, strategic, visionary leader like you. I mean, honestly, this interview could stop right now. I didn't need to ask any, you have all the answers. I mean, honestly, going back to
that
what
means
you
a
said,
lot.
but what you said at the beginning of saying you had the 90-day, 6-month, and 1-year plan, I'm not sure how many even very, very large institutions had that kind of thinking. I know that for Battery Dance, on March 13th, that day will stick in my mind forever, when the curtain came down, so to speak.
Yes.
He thought that our festival in August would be the first sort of live festival in New York, because August, I mean, the summer, things would be cool and calm and we could all gather. No. So, the fact that you were thinking a year out has obviously put you in a very strong position.
That means a lot. Thank you. And maybe I'm crazy. I'm not sure. And, there's been
I
so
don't
much
think you're
strife
crazy.
and
You're not
there's
crazy.
Okay. I just feel like, there's been so much loss and just, I don't know, just such a roller coaster of emotions for each of us. We've all been affected in so many different ways. But I feel like as an artistic director, my greatest concern has always been, and well before these times, the well-being of the dancer. How's their mental health? How's their physical health? Those things are important to me because, luckily I danced. So I had a wonderful career here at Dallas Black Dance Theater. So I want to continue that legacy. And in that, I have to be very thoughtful. And even though I just said we had laid out these plans, the best laid plans can be set, but none of it matters if I had one dancer who felt apprehensive to continue. I had to be willing to be flexible in the foundation that I laid out for us to move forward, and respectfully honor everyone in that room, because they're the product. And
tell us what the day-to-day looked like. I mean, you said that you kept everybody paid and you had these plans. What were those plans? Did you have dancers in the studio? Did you have them socially distant? Did you disinfect? Like what sort of nuts and bolts of that plan?
So I will say March 13th sticks out to me as well, because we had a performance here in the Dallas area, and audience members were calling. They're like, "You're still going to perform, right?" And we're like, "No, this can't happen." But the first couple of weeks, I'm always very honest. I have an open door policy with the dancers. And I said, look, I don't know what's happening right now, and I don't know how we're going to move forward. So just relax your minds, stay at home. But then once we figured out how to move forward, we had virtual programming. Now, let me go back just a half a second. Everyone in the dance community was putting out free content. They were doing classes, free performances, whether they were live or pre-recorded. And, even the company members like, well, what are we going to do? Aren't we going to do something? So-and-so's doing this. So-and-so. I said, that does not matter to me. I said, Dallas Black Dance Theater has a very unique voice, and I want us to maintain our integrity at the highest level of excellence, no matter what. So I said, I need to see what feels right. So we started, doing like the social media takeovers, while the dancers were at home. They would take company class from home every day. And then
that's great. So you kept them in shape and kept
them in shape. And then, of course, we have 5 summer programs that happen between June and July. And so we maintained all of those virtually. We have a program in Austin, in San Antonio, and, they were a little uncertain of like, we don't know if we should keep the programming. We're like, if the students are in, let's do it. So
did you do it on Zoom?
We did. I will say that I have become the Zoom master, helping our academy staff and the dancers figure things out. And then, okay, then I felt like, okay, I feel like we could be ready to present something. So we started the Legacy Performance Series because we're trying to lay the tracks for our 45th anniversary, which is next season. So we've been
We're
showing.
there. This is our
Yes.
45th.
Okay, congratulations.
Hmm.
Not many of us get that far. But so choreographer chats and all that type of engagement. And then I figured, okay, how can we do something live and safe? So we presented what we call the petite performance, and we did 2 solos and a duet. And in preparation for that, I will have always said the Dallas Play Dance Theater has the cleanest building in the entire city of Dallas, but now in these times, we have the best maintenance staff. No one ever talks about the people behind the scenes like that. And our team, they are awesome, gentlemen.
Critical.
Very critical. And so thank goodness through PPE grants and so forth, we have, so of course, masks are required. The sanitization is like bar none. Our facilities manager, she has been certified. She took a whole workshop training course on all of the proper protocols, for this pandemic. And then we've got we've just named her. Her name is, what is her name? Irma the Therma. She's a thermal kiosk where you come in and get your scan, your temperature, and she will tell you. She will deny you if you don't have your mask on. She'll tell you to try again. It's great. So we wear the masks, and the dancers rehearse right now 4 days a week, Monday, Tuesday, very limited hours, Thursday, Friday. Wednesday is the day where all of our studios, are being sanitized from top to bottom. And it's just like this perpetual cycle of let's clean, let's clean, let's clean. We also got for the dancers, every employee of Dallas Light Dance Theater, including the dancers, we have these personal air purifiers. It's like a little lightweight device. You can wear it around your neck like a pendant, clip it onto your waistband. Is developed by NASA, and it kills viruses, bacteria, pollen, and so on.
That's a first for me. I never heard of that.
Yeah. So we're just really trying to figure out how can we continuously provide a safe environment for the dancers, for the staff to do what we do. In the studio, we've got the socially distanced boxes and all of that. And now as we move into virtual times, performances, we're being safe, keeping all those measures. And then we've been filming on location and so on. So the only time we may take their mask off is just to film and put them right back on.
That speaks to us because we were the first and only festival in New York that was filming live on our stage at our park. So yeah, same thing, temperature checks, masks.
Yes, COVID testing.
Yeah. But I wanted to ask, you said earlier that you did a performance with 2 solos and a duet.
Oh, yes.
And what about the audience? Like, where was that performance?
So we presented that online as well.
Oh, I see.
Although it was live, and just because we have to protect each other. We have to be responsible in all facets. So it was just the right thing to do. And I will say, our ticket sales manager, she called every patron that we have to do wellness checks. We weren't calling asking for donations or anything like that. So she reached over 2,000 of our patrons, probably spoke voice to voice to about 55% of them, to just say, how are you doing? How are you? What can we do for you?
If anybody wants to talk about arts and community, what you just said is an incredible example of that. What a commitment.
Yeah. And how are you doing? What can we do for you? How comfortable would you feel if we made a decision to move in person when the time is right? And out of over those 2,000 or so folks, about 3% said they'd be willing to return. And so that was the voice of how we would move forward into this 44th season. You can't, even if you're in the theater at limited capacity, there are a couple of city-owned buildings where they do allow in-person at a limited capacity, but cost, it doesn't make sense to spend tens of thousands of dollars for the theater rental for 25 audience members. It just doesn't
We
make
don't
sense.
we don't even have that in New York. I mean, I don't know of any theaters that are open, with limited capacity. And I don't know that there's an appetite for people to go inside a building right now.
Right. Yeah.
But I hope that this interview reaches city officials in Dallas and around the country, because I think what you're describing is a protocol that is, as you said, bar none. I mean, you've gone all the way to guarantee the health and safety of your dancers. And clearly that's your way of thinking. It's not something that's new. It's baked into who you are and how the organization functions, not only for its dancers, but for its community. Bravo.
Yeah.
Honestly, that's incredible.
Thank
So,
you.
we have to talk about Edmund Giles, because he danced with Battery Dance. He went on tour to Poland with us. I am not absolutely sure, but I think it was his first international tour. He was
Wow.
he was right out of Ailey 2, and
Mhm.
he bounced from Ailey 2 into Battery Dance and got on a plane and went to Krakow, Warsaw, and a whole tour of Poland. And what a calm and committed young man. I believe he's been part of the Dallas Black Dance Theater for quite a long time, and he's made a transition as well
He
in
has. He
choreography.
has. Yes, I love it.
Tell us about him.
I know. I love Edmund Giles to pieces. We all do. You can't help but love him. Yes, he came to Dallas. We danced in the company together, actually. And now all of the years kind of blend together. I feel like maybe he was in the company for 4 or 5 years. And so within that time, of course, being a company member, he choreographed some works for us. He was the director of our second company at one point. Edmund, he has, and those who may know him who are watching, they're probably smiling, because Edmund, he makes costumes. He will style a wig. He will do your makeup. He is like the
Full
Kate Bassett
service.
of goodness, full service. And yes, he's made a transition, but every time, when we could travel, he always, connects with us. And he's like our brother. He's like our brother. I call him little brother. But he was
That's
he made
wonderful to
such a
hear.
huge contribution to Dallas Black Dance. And, we cherish everyone who's come through our doors, and someone like Edmund, and as well as, the first timer. And I'm a very sentimental, emotional type person, but in all of the time that I've been with a company, which I've been in the company over half the life of the organization, everyone who comes in contact with us, whether you have seen us on a main stage or you were walking down the sidewalk and saw us performing on stage at a park, I feel like that individual is a part of the very fabric of Dallas Black Dance Theater's history. I figure, like, if you can imagine a beautiful quilt or tapestry and all of the beautiful woven threads that make this larger, material, that's who we are. The brilliance of not just the art that's produced on stage, but those who choose to come to see us. Those who mention that we've made a great impact, and those will never know what type of impact we've made. I hold that very close to my heart, and I'm just so thankful, because there's so many choices, that you can make, and who you choose to support time and time again. And that's why we have such a rich history.
I relate so strongly to everything that you've said. I mean, Battery Dance in this big, huge city of New York City carved out a spot for itself in Lower Manhattan, and we've stayed true to the community. And of course, now with programs in 70 countries around the world, our family is bigger than we could have ever imagined when we started out. But that's the point. I think we talked about improvisation earlier. There is an element of improvisation in the way that a dance company grows, but improvisation with planning. Clearly, there's Ann Williams and all of the people that contributed to making Dallas Black Dance Theater an important anchor in the community in Dallas, and in a greater, your satellite activities, as you mentioned, in other cities in Texas and so forth. So, I can't stop myself from mentioning the first line in your biography, which says you're a Honduran American. And first of all, at a time when immigration is like one of the biggest issues in the United States, and you're in Texas, a border state, and your family was from Honduras, where Battery Dance had one of the most inspiring, heartwarming, incredible engagements that we've had through the State Department, working with young people in San Pedro Sula. So you mentioned earlier that your brooch is Honduran, and
Oh, yes, the country is living right here in my heart.
tell us about your family and your connection with the country.
Sure. So I'm the first generation American, and my parents and my siblings, I'm the youngest of five. My siblings were all born there, and they moved to the United States in the late 60s. And I was born a few years later. And we have, I hate to say the typical immigrant story. My mother had come to visit her mother, who was living in California at the time, and she realized, wow, we need to make this transition because we want a better life for our family, and for our children. And she never looked back. My parents, they never thought twice about, should we return back to Honduras or not? And my youngest brother, Gerald Young, he was born in San Pedro Sula, and I love these connections. I'm just kind of mind blown that Battery Dance has the connection to my country. And my brother Gerald Young, he's the first Honduran to become a Major League Baseball player. His bulk of his career was spent with the Houston Astros. He was center fielder, number 2.
Chills.
And I'm just really proud of our family. And I feel like it's not really spoken, but it's like we all know that we need to achieve and high levels of whatever career fields that we've chosen, really to honor our family heritage and our parents. I mean, we such great role models, and
You're blowing my mind. You're blowing my mind. You're touching my heart. Just even your story. I mean, we've been introduced to Melissa Young, who is obviously a magnificent force in the art world. We need to see you in New York. We need to see your company up here in New York City.
We were so saddened because we typically have performed, in New York in the springtime, and the dancers last in 2019, that spring, I mean, we were on a roll, and this group of artists we have, and I'm going to go out on a limb and say that I feel like the current company members that we have is probably the strongest company of dancers we've had in the 27 years that I've been with the organization. And so last year, I mean, have been just rock solid, in that zone, just performing at their peak, and just giving every bit of emotion that they have. It just like everything, all the stars were aligned. And so we were like, yes, next year when we go to New York, we're going to do this work, and then pump the brakes. Hold on, wait a minute. Yeah. But that's okay, because, everyone is being hopeful. Everyone
it's not going away. I mean, and the appetite for those challenges, for that aspiration is going to be even stronger when we come back. I mean, because we've experienced what it's like to be deprived of something critical to us as performers, but also critical to the audiences, critical to the public. You started out by saying how much the arts have contributed to keeping people healthy and from out of depression and into inspiration at this time and all times. But, now this is the test right now.
It really is.
I have no doubt that you're going to lead the company into stronger and stronger positions. I mean, you have inspired me. I reached out to you to ask you to be in this interview. Honestly speaking, I didn't know who you were. But the first line, I am a Honduran American. I'm like, yes, this. And then, digging a little deeper into your trajectory with Dallas Black and realizing the connection with Edmund, and, it's just this is what we need right now. We need connections. We need to connect the world through dance. We need to share our passion in whatever way we can, and you are leading the way. So Melissa Young, it's been such an incredible pleasure to meet you. I can't wait to make this, to, you know, build up our relationship between the two dance companies, and reaching out to you to help you come back to New York the next time. So thank you so much for taking the time during your filming sessions and everything else to greet the Battery Dance TV audience. Thank you.
Thank you. It's been such a pleasure and an honor to, connect with you today. And, I look forward to our growing relationship as well. And, I just encourage everyone to hang in there, and to continue to be bold and fearless. And don't let this pandemic, continue to paralyze your mindset.
And what a great role model you are for that.
Thank you so much.